And the reputation that it had was that it was a place for, for gangbangers, drug dealers, people who grew up to be nothing. And for some of those, well, for some people, it's true. Out of that school and out of my year, in fact, came gangbangers, drug dealers, rapists, murderers. For my masters, my attendance was 3.98%. So how I go about finding time to do stuff is just by not attending university. Now, that is not something that I recommend to anybody else because it's a mad way to go about your time at university. And just because it worked, for me, doesn't mean that it'll work for most people. I'm not sure if you bought NFT before and if you've used Discord, but one of the ways that people say if an NFT kind of project, is good or is valuable or is reliable is to look at the community, not just on Twitter, not just on Instagram, but then look at a Discord server. And even after looking at the Discord server, jumping in to see how active that community is in itself. The amount of Ethereum that I'm raising is going up, but then like the value is just going down. It's like, what's going on here? That could have an adverse effect as well because like if people's value of Ethereum is like dropping or crashing, they wouldn't want to now put that somewhere else. So because when you're in a bull market, people tend to just spend more than when you're in a bear market. So yeah, I was like, oh no, I have not played this right, but yeah, it turned out great.
Welcome to the Valuable Podcast, where there is value in every conversation. I'm your host, Victor Sasanya, and today I am joined with Eniola Ajuwon, founder of tech consultancy firm Arkisites and Web3 project Early Fans. In this episode, we learn about his journey into the tech, crypto, and NFT space, as well as how he raised over 40,000 by creating his own token. So, what is it that you actually do? Like, what's your employment status? Are you employed? Are you unemployed? What is it that you actually do?
I get asked this question a lot, and like my response is just usually it's just vibes because like explaining it constantly to people like what I'm currently working on is kind of difficult because like what I'm working on is quite complex, and I'm working on multiple complex projects, so that there's going to be tons of questions that I don't want to have to kind of like respond to every single day or every time I meet somebody. So I've got a diversity and inclusion consultancy called Arkisites, so people have got questions about that. And then I told them that I'm working on a music NFT startup, and then everybody's going to be bare questions about that. And they asked me that, what else do you do? And, I've got my tokenization and project, which literally 90% of people don't understand. So I need to explain that to them. And it's just like,
of course,
vibes. I just see unemployed vibes and just leave it as that. And they're like, okay, cool.
No, but I think this is a good place on this podcast, a valuable podcast, to dive into, and hopefully we can actually understand your story and understand what you do, why you're doing it, and add a bit more clarity to all the listeners, including myself as well. But no, welcome. Thank you for joining the Valuable Podcast. Let's just even take it all the way back to sort of like, or if you want to quickly introduce yourself in a nutshell, then we'll take it back to your story and sort of how you've came up to this point where you're getting involved in building your own diversity and inclusion agency and tokenizing yourself.
Cool. I don't know how far back I should start, but I'll say that my name is Eniola Ajuwon, and I was born in Nigeria. Came to the UK when I was like, I think two or 3 years old. Settled in Bermondsey eventually. Grew up there. Went to secondary school, which was a kind of unique experience. And after kind of just like dabbling in multiple things and just kind of engaging with my interests from medicine all the way to to tech, I've found my way where I am today, and things have aligned pretty well for that. I'm actually quite happy.
You said that your secondary school experience was quite unique, and you went to school in South London. Was it?
Yeah. I went to school in Peckham.
Okay, Peckham. Wow. So what was it like? What school did you go to?
I went to a school called St. Thomas the Apostle College, or STAC for short. I'm trying to think of what I can say so that...
No, be honest, because I've actually heard of that school before. It's funny because I posted, I think one day I went to a school in Woolwich Poly. Polytechnic
Oh, you
School.
would? Okay, cool.
Yes, no. So I didn't go to that school, but I went to that school to do a speaking engagement, like an
Mhm.
assembly, to like the year tens, and it was a really good experience. And I can see like it was a very sort of multicultural school. And then I posted on my Instagram like, what school should I hit up next? And
Mm.
I got a lot of responses on the school you mentioned saying, "Oh, they need you. The kids need you.
That's
Like they need this." So I was
well,
wondering, wow, like what's going on in that school, like in terms of behavior or aspiration. So it's quite
nah.
interesting to see like what your experience was like.
Yeah, it used to. I mean, now it's a good school. That I cannot even kind of say anything about that. It's a good school now. But when I went there, the reputation that it had was that it was a place for for gangbangers, drug dealers, people who grew up to be nothing. And for some of those, well, for some people, it's true. Out of that school and out of my year, in fact, came gangbangers, drug dealers,
Mm.
rapists, murderers, some of attempted murderers. Some of them committed those crimes whilst we were still in that school.
Wow.
And the experience was actually, I mean, it's going to sound very, very weird because people say that this is part of my trauma, but whatever. It was quite a unique experience which I wouldn't change. But when I went out to sixth form, I went sixth form in West London. Um, I saw how different and how mad we were as kids, because a lot of the things that I thought were normal, like the way we used to play fight, the way we used to insult people, the way we used to, slash people with compasses, in the mass corridor for fun, are things that other kids didn't do in other schools. I was like, oh crap! So maybe, maybe we were a little bit mad, right? So yeah, it was a very, very unique experience. I won't talk about the details because I don't want to shed light on what I saw or the activities that I may or may not have partaken in. But I'll just say they're very, very unique.
And I think I don't know whether to say this is a good thing or a bad thing, but the fact that I can relate to you in terms of going
I
to a
don't think,
secondary
I don't
school
think
where
so.
slashing people with compasses and all sorts. Then because I went to a school. To be honest, I went to a school in Romford, but it's
Yeah,
if people know the school I went to, I won't mention it. But it was like basically. It had the culture of like Dagenham,
yeah.
because we were literally right next to Dagenham. Like if you just walk a couple like 2 minutes, you'll see the welcome to Havering sign, and you've
Okay.
just left Dagenham and
Yeah.
Dagenham and Barking sort of thing. But I moved to a school in Essex and Upminster, and just a
Mhm.
completely different culture. Exactly, that's why
Yeah.
I can relate when you're just thinking, "Wow, okay, this is a bit
Wow.
different." But the fact that we have that sort of synergy. So you've now came out of this school. You went to sixth form and West
Yeah.
London. And I'm sure that was your path onto going into further education. So you went to university. So what was it like,
Yeah.
sort of figuring out what you wanted to study, and what did you study?
So just quick caveat, because there's actually a hole in my timeline there. I went to a football college out of secondary school. I spent a year there and things didn't work out for me in terms of both my education and my body back then, because I didn't really treat it right. So I made a decision to kind of like start sixth form properly and just do sixth form only. So then I went to West London from there. And how did I figure out what I wanted to do? That's quite interesting, because I've got a few interests that when people find out about me, they wouldn't kind of associate with me. So I'm a big history nerd. I love history. I have to rank in terms of what I would have wanted to do in an ideal world at university. History would be number one. A computer science related degree would be number two. And then what I'm doing now, which is or what I did in first year or for my undergrad, would have been third. But I knew how much reading was required on the course. The university that I wanted to go to didn't have a lot of elective or modules, so I
Mm.
didn't do history. I did like the maths element of computer science, which is integral, and a lot of universities needed you to do maths, or a lot of the elite ones want you to do maths. And if you want to do computer science or CS related degree at the institution, which I wasn't doing, so I was like, well, can't do that. So I thought, let me just do management and economics. I chose that because the nature of the degree means that I can still pursue my passions outside of the degree. I can still do anything that I want to do tech related. I can still read up about history and consume that kind of content. So I think that was kind of like the best choice for me. It was something that I was able to learn a lot and manage. And one thing I like about management and economics as a degree is that you learn everything from economics to like consumer psychology, right? So it
Mm.
covered kind of like a broad spectrum of things, and the nature of the degree meant that I had time just to do other things.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
and I want to quickly touch on that because I think you're not the only one where someone basically, we have this passion or interest. For example, you said history, but
Mm.
circumstance just happens that you don't get to study what you want to study, or you don't get to
Yeah.
pursue something that you want to pursue.
Mm.
So how did you said that it wasn't really a problem because you still kept in touch with like your passions and interests? Because I'm just thinking, for some students that were meant to go to Oxbridge to do a specific course, or they were meant to do dentistry but they couldn't do that, now they're doing psychology, sociology, but they
Right.
still have an interest in something else. Like, how do you go about balancing those passions and interests but still performing?
If I'm being completely honest with you, I'm the wrong person to ask. I am notorious for just not attending my lectures.
Okay.
I'm going to share this. For my masters, my attendance was 3.98%. So
Three point wait 3.9 out of 100.
out of 100, yeah. So
Wow.
how I go about finding time to do stuff is just by not attending university. Now, that is not something that I recommend to anybody else, because it's a mad way to go about your time at university. And just because it worked, for me, doesn't mean that it'll work for most people. So I'm not probably the best, position to answer that question, because my response would be, well, you just give something up. For me, it was university. But I mean, I think just surrounding yourself with that kind of content, whether that will be YouTube, books, societies, people who like to talk about and engage in those topics, because you can be surrounded by interests on a very kind of low res level. People always, I think, tend to make it quite a difficult thing. I need to go to this event. I need to go to this place. I need to do this in this way. But if I can talk with my housemates about the impact of Julius Gaius Octavian on the Roman Empire, that's fine, because we're able to go back and forth. We're able to kind of engage with each other's curiosity, to make us think a bit more, right? Without having to sit down and look at a book or watch a 2 hour documentary. We can have that conversation in passing for about 10 minutes whilst making some food. And I think that's the most important thing. Is what are you surrounded by?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's what makes it easier.
No, I think I'm already learning from you. You're quite unconventional in how,
Very.
in your approach, and it might be exciting and lead us a bit into what you're doing
Mm.
sort of now. And you've actually, just to clarify to the listeners, you've actually graduated, so you completed the masters, right?
Yeah, I have graduated. Yeah,
Okay, so with a 4% attendance rate, so it is possible. But I don't know if we're encouraging that at
I
all
don't.
on this podcast. But so when you graduated,
Mhm.
what was the first thing that was on your mind? Was it get a grad job? Was it start your own business? Was it just to chill and vibes? What was it for you?
Yeah. So, funny enough, so in the November of our master's degree, because it was October to October. So in November, before the new calendar year, I decided to withdraw every single application or offer that I've made for a grad role. And I did that because I wanted to work on Arkisites full time after university. Me knowing the people that I knew, and the fact that I was a bright person, or I am a bright person, I hope, anyways, meant that I was confident that I was going to get a grad role at a pretty decent place. And even if I didn't get one, in the conventional means, I would have picked up a phone and made a couple calls to make sure that at least I've got an internship somewhere, right? Now, the issue for me is that gave me some sort of security.
Mm,
It didn't force me to have to build Architects, to convert it from a community group to revenue and generating business. So I just said, this is going to have to be my only option. So I
mm.
withdrew everything, and that meant that come July, when my lease ended, if I didn't have a home by then I'm moving back to my parents' house, and I didn't want that. So I said, look, now Elijah, you got 6 months to sign a deal, and you better start working. You better start working. So that was what was on my mind. And I'm just happy, and I thank God that I was able to sign a deal. I think it was in June with a UCR, and that allowed me to kind of like continue to work on Archisites after I'd graduated. But a grad role was never in the works. I think that after I did what I did, because there's no going back when you withdraw an offer, or when you withdraw application. So I just closed my eyes, did it. I was like, well, here I am. So it's time to start. It's time to get working. Let's go.
Wow, that's a bold move. That is a bold move because you read about it, right? You read, and normally people read about, dropped out of school, dropped out of college, dropped out of uni. The way you're saying it is so raw and authentic, as in you
Mm.
actually removed that security, that safety blanket, and said, listen, something's got to give. Otherwise, we're back at home with the basic essentials rice.
Yeah, exactly.
So, wow. But for the listeners, so what is Arkisites? Talk to me about it. When did you actually come together and built this company? Was it meant to be what it is now, or did you start off as just a community?
So I started off as just a community. Like, I kind of reinvented it in the community because I had Arkisites before when I was in sixth form. That's when I actually founded it. But it was just a website development agency. There's nothing special to it. So I put that on pause when I came to uni. And then I kind of like restarted it again. But it was just a community group, for like, minority ethnic techies or anybody who's interested in tech, for people to collaborate, learn off each other, share ideas. And then I don't know who I was speaking to. I think it was my dad. I told him like, yeah, Dad, we just crossed this many people in our Slack channel, and we got to this accelerator. I said, so how much money are you making? I was like, that is about the good of the people, I was like, so would I bring money to your account? I was like, but Dad, it's about helping them. I was like, and then after I hung up, I was like, oh damn, crap. This is not revenue generating. So how am I going to shift this to become revenue generating? So I think that I was able to. I mean, I was lucky to have the people on my team that I've got. These are professionals, in various places, and a wealth of kind of advisors that helped me transition from kind of just a community group to a revenue generating organization. But it wasn't just only money motivated. You interviewed. I think maybe 2 weeks ago you interviewed Chib. I actually got a text from one of my friends who said, "Oh yeah, my friend just did something or was doing something like this," and other community groups popped up. So I was like, "Well, there's no point of me adding to the noise and trying to say mine's better, because it's not about whose is better. It's just about having a place where minority ethnic techies can actually be." So if there's like 30 organizations on LinkedIn and you see them every bloody week when they're putting all the updates, and I'm happy to announce, if they all exist, then you guys can go to them. We'll do something different. We'll work with the organizations and with institutions, because people, in my eyes, it's not the people who need to fixing. It was the organizations and institutions that need fixing. So kind of made that pivot to that, and we took our experience of talking to people, and everybody was part of the Arkisites community, to kind of like really leverage that. It sounds kind of evil, but kind of like leverage that for our offering to these organizations.
Wow, that's really big. And when you say community, just so I have a better idea, so is it an online community? Where does the community contact each other? Where do the people share ideas, collaborate? Is it online? Is it on group chats? Is it on social media? So how did you actually foster learning and development and impact in this community?
Yeah, so everything was online. This could range from like posts on social media, kind of like Instagram carousels, to the community meetups we held online. And these community meetups, because I'm quite childish, and one thing that I don't like is sitting in kind of like boring rooms where people just tell me what they do in the tech company. I frankly don't care. But what I do want to know is about stories, is about the things that you've learned. So like that's how like the format will be. It will be an hour long. I was very, very strict on time. But yeah, so we'll hear people's stories. We'll allow people to kind of like network with each other in like breakout rooms. And then we let the community ask questions to people, in like Arkisites, to see what's going on next. And then we literally play games. That was how it went, like, for an hour. Sometimes the games bit will stretch over an hour, but that was fine because people are connecting that way. But it was all about being raw and authentic, and not just about, sitting, in your bedroom, listening to somebody tell me how great the company is. We didn't care about that. We wanted to engage with the real individuals, and not, the corporate veil that people wear when they're representing their companies.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. That's powerful. And you managed to actually get that partnership with UCL. So what was that like? What was the strategy, the approach? How does that even come about?
When you've rescinded all of your offers, then you get quite desperate. So I just emailed them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, crap. Something like this will actually be kind of cool." One thing about academic institutions is that there's so much bureaucracy, and like dealing with them, they are so damn slow. So I contacted them in November, and I didn't actually put pen to paper in June. I was going through so many meetings. I had to give the same presentation to different subcommittees, to different committees. and it was a long process, but it was just literally a cold email, because I mean that was the only option I had. And then yeah, I'm happy that they responded and that we engaged, we went back and forth, and were able to kind of strike the deal that's the stroke today. And what that kind of consists of is a diversity and inclusion audit. So it just looks at the Department of Computer Science as it pertains to the diversity and inclusion initiatives, and just provide recommendations and whatnot about that in the form of a report.
Oh wow! So it's sort of like a consultancy for these institutions.
Exactly that.
And you have this grind and grit about you, and of course it's easy for you to just overlook it in the sense that you went to cold email, meetings, putting out presentations, and you said something that was really profound. I picked up before. You said like you are a bright man, but in the case you didn't get no offer, you would just pick up the phone and get to work. Like so, but that's not natural. I promise you, that's not natural. So where did this buzz drive? Where did this grit come from? Like
That's a very good question, because to this day, I really don't know. I wish I could give you like a nice, profound, deep answer. As in a nice story in the background, but if anything, it's probably learned behavior from my parents. I will say, because if I can't explain where something's come from, I typically just assume that it's learned behavior from my parents, especially my dad, who just works and works and works and works and works, and my mum, who's very very kind of entrepreneurial. So I took my mum's side in terms of I do what I want, and my dad's side of working hard, and probably just like that's been mashed together in this weird concoction to like create me. But yeah, there's no deep story about how I went to the mountains and reconnected with the earth and
No, not at all. All we ask is for, that transparency and that honesty. And I was just like really curious, because I think that when I look at some of the guests I've even been speaking to and some of my friends, you start to pick up themes, and I start to spot certain trends in life, but minuscule details are sort of overlooked. Like, wait, what actually made this person like this? This, I was just interested in, and you're really good at applications and getting offers, and I think you even had a scholarship at university from the Black Heart Foundation.
Yeah, Black Heart Foundation. Yeah, I got a scholarship for that. Yeah, that was needed because I had no money for my masters. I started my masters with no bread. It's weird because like I do everything kind of in hindsight, or kind of like and retrospectively. I don't know why I do things like this. But,
do you have any? So just for the Black Heart Foundation, like, because I'm sure there's a lot of students listening, whether they're already at university thinking of a postgrad. So do you have any sort of advice or tips, or can explain what the Black Heart Foundation is and where they could sort of apply to get funding?
So to apply to get funding, go on the Black Heart Foundation website. I think it's literally blackheartfoundation.org or like bhf.org, something like that. But I'm pretty sure if you Google it, it'll be the first link. Tips for the application. Oof, I don't know. I just told my story and why I needed the money. I just told the truth. I mean, there was no kind of like inflation of what I've done. I just literally listed out, how I grew up in the first paragraph. I think the second paragraph is like what I'm currently doing at uni. The third paragraph was what I needed a P for. And the last paragraph was what I wanted to do next, or what the scholarship would help me do in the future, what will enable me to do in the future, and how that aligns with my goals and with their values. Yeah, that's the template I used, and I think it just came naturally to me. Yeah, I recommend if there's any kind of ethnic minority out there who needs funding for the postgrad or for the undergrad, then you should apply for the Black Heart Foundation.
No, definitely. And I'll just, recommend that too. Although I wasn't a scholar, I'm a scholar from a different recipient. So I was actually funded to go to university as well. So if you're listening, listen, there's actually money out there to send you to university.
Yeah.
Believe that. And there's more organizations. I know there's Crowd Scholar, there's Lloyd Scholar. There's so many different organizations. So what I might do, actually might include that in this week's newsletter. So if you're listening, make sure you are subscribed at valuablepodcast.com. But you talked about in your scholarship that you're going to mention what you're about to do next. So was tech, was Web3, was crypto, was that in the plans?
Absolutely no chance. I didn't even know where it was. My plan back then was to build Arkisites to be a company of X size and potentially do my PhD. That was my plan. I had absolutely no idea that this is the path that that I'll be on. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey since then. I can't lie.
So how did you even get into the crypto, NFT, and Web3 space?
Yeah, I mean, I think my journey started off like most other people, just like stable coins, altcoins. You download the Binance or Coinbase or whatever. You start to trade back in what? Would it be January 2021 when like, everything started to move crazy? And then I think I just started to dig a bit deeper, because I've got this kind of obsessive personality. I wanted to know more about the use cases, and just like that, I stumbled across DeFi. Boom, DAOs, NFTs, Web3 as a whole, and then I just became fully immersed in that space. So yeah, that's kind of how I got in.
Yeah, I think the majority of, I won't break down what cryptocurrency is because I think like there's a lot of information out there, and when people talk about Bitcoin, like this is a household sort of name. So, but what I think is quite interesting is what you mentioned there: DeFi, DOAs, DAOs,
Yeah, yeah, DAOs.
DAOs, Web3. That I think is much more less known about and less talked about.
Mm.
So could you explain, I mean, I'm not sure how long it will take you, but simplified, what is Web3 and why, or should we even care about it?
I would say that the difference between Web3 is the new iteration of the internet, where creators and contributors are able to keep the value that they give, or are able to be rewarded for the value that they provide.
In
So
terms of Web3
yeah,
using your, is it called early fans?
yeah, early fans, yeah.
So what are you doing there?
In Web2, Spotify keep the value that you create as an artist, through fans staying on the platform and through the revenue that's generated, because I think Spotify keeps 93%. Now, in Web3, if you were to sell your music as an NFT, you can keep, let's say, 95% of all the kind of like, funds that you've raised through your music NFT. So the value goes straight from the artist to the fan, who gets rewarded with everything encoded in the smart contract, and that clear value exchange is there because the fan gives the artist their funds in exchange, and that kind of value creation is right there that allows fans to connect with artists more than ever before, and are able to invest in their favorite artists as well, and as a reward of that, or a reward of that is getting an NFT that's got other things kind of attached to that, in the form of tickets, perhaps merch, perhaps royalties, AMA time with the artist. So it's about it's about fostering kind of communities around these artists, and rewarding the fans who actually back these artists as well.
Okay, so early fans. So the incentive, is it for fans like myself who may listen to artists, or is it for the artists to engage with their fans? Because I guess the argument is, are artists not already engaging with their fans with millions of followers on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now? Like,
Yeah.
is there not already a community? Are they not already doing tours? Are they not already making a ton of money? So what would early fans do?
So, how warm do you think those relationships are?
I mean, I guess I think it depends on each artist, but I think it's quite warm in the sense that artists are literally in the comments, putting all sorts of comments, love hearts, like they feel in touch with every single post that
Yeah,
sorry, I mean fans, they feel in touch with every single post that artists are making. In terms of warm, as in do they have direct contact to them? Of course not.
yeah.
Do the artists know that the fans are who the fans are, like individually? Probably not.
Yeah, and that's what we want to change. So, I mean, this is much more easier at kind of like independent level, and for like more smaller artists that are up and coming, where we're able to kind of create this kind of real warm relationships, but also for bigger artists as well, because I mean, it's going to, because for me the definition of warm might be slightly different. It's more than just a cold reaction to a comment. It's more than just going to to a concert, for example. But it's kind of more of how does that artist kind of engage with the community, and do they do anything else to kind of engage with the community as well? And one thing we're seeing just kind of transition to Web2 to Web3 is that every big platform, every big kind of like influencer, every big future company is gonna be built off the back of having meaningful community, because that's what people value in Web3, and that's one of the things that we've learned, and that's why we've actually kind of nearly pivoted our focus from what it was before to kind of like offering this kind of like community, this kind of community focus, because that is what all projects are going to be built off. I mean, I'm not sure if you bought NFT before and if you've used Discord, but one of the ways that people say if an NFT kind of project, is good or is valuable or is reliable, is to look at the community, not just on Twitter, not just on Instagram, but then look at a Discord server. And even after looking at the Discord server, jumping in to see how active that community is in itself. So that's just going to be the basis for Web3, and that's just going to be what everything's going to be built on, community. So I think that pushing this kind of community offering is what's going to give artists kind of like a leg up. For example, there's an artist called Daniel Allen, right? Who wanted to he was independent. He wanted to get away from labels, so he raised some money on Mirror XYZ, and he said that if I raise this amount, I'm going to give away 50% of our master's rights to everybody who contributed. And then he overfunded. After overfunding, he realized I didn't need all that piece, so then he now created a music DAO, which is probably one of the most successful music DAOs that's out there. And I don't mean to speculate because I actually haven't checked the figures, but I'm pretty sure that his music streams as a result has gone up. His following as a result has gone up. The types of people that's interacting with in Web3 space, in terms of their prestige, has gone up as well, and that's off the back of building a meaningful community. He engages with everybody he can. He engages with all of his backers, and as a result of that, he's been able to grow. And I think that's a massive thing that people are kind of like overlooking, because everybody thinks money. But then this kind of community economy that we're going to be in is actually just going to be the future of how projects, people, and organizations are built. And wouldn't it just be cool if you knew about Kendrick, years before he blew up, and he actually had something to represent it, i.e., anytime your friends are like, "Oh yeah, I put you on," you're like, "But I've got the proof in my wallet. I bought the NFT. I talked to Kendrick when he was up and coming in a Discord server. I've got limited edition merch. He did a private concert for me. Did this? I think that's just more warm. It's more meaningful. Rather than having where it currently lies, which is just the value exchange currently is just you stream the person's music, you hear the music, they get money for the stream, and that's it. That's where it ends. You might go to a concert, you might go to a show, but you're sitting up in tier 4 screaming while still 200 meters away. That's probably where it is.
Oh, wow. You're really touching the hearts of some WizKids fans and other fans. But no, I see. I think that's a great example. You said, was it David Allen who's someone to look at? I think that's quite fascinating, and I will take a deep dive on what he's done. And you mentioned some terms there, so DAOs, music DAO. So what is a DAO?
DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And if I'm going to put it very simply, I'm really, really watering it down here, but think of it as kind of like a Discord server that's got a treasury, and that everybody in that server are able to vote on decisions, are able to vote on how the funds of the treasury is being used. If I kind of go above a level above, that's usually done by tokens. So you buy a token that's used in the DAOs, kind of like treasury, so that you're able to vote on certain decisions. And some DAOs will require you to hold a X amount of tokens to make proposals, or to be able to vote. Some DAOs would make you need to delegate your votes to a set group of people to make some decisions. But essentially, it's just a place where think of it kind of like a company-ish, that kind of shares out or spreads its governance to the community.
Wow. So it's like a new way of people like me, normal. Well, I'm not normal, but like individuals, people in society, to basically buy like, I don't want to say a share because it's not a stock, but buy sort of rights to influence a majority or influence something. Wow. And it sounds to me that you sort of now modeled David Allen, or correct me if I'm wrong, or looked at so many different projects and started your own, and you tokenized yourself. So talk to me about that process. And it's funny because I was seeing the synergies, same way he overfunded, you massively overfunded, and it just puzzled me because I was like, wait, so what does this guy do? Why would anyone want to buy a piece of his life and vote on his life decisions? Like, he only has 1,000 certain followers on Instagram. Like, what am I missing here? So please tell me, what am I missing here? Or what's that project like?
So the project has kicked off. It kicked off on Monday. It's actually quite interesting. People have already made proposals, which are available to view for the public. But again, you just can't vote. You honestly hold a piece of my token. But essentially, I just wanted to raise funds to act as a safety net for my kind of like entrepreneurial kind of like ventures for the next year or so as I'm building early funds. And I offered a bunch of incentives. And essentially, the way those incentives are kind of like laid out is that people are nearly investing in the future version of me. And I think that by reading my story, so there's two groups of people. The people who don't know me at all and are just reading my story and, see if they can relate to me and seeing if they, if there's anything there that they can, back. And there's people who know me as in like my friends, right? So my friends and my family are always going to, push some money in, that's fine. Some of them don't actually care about what I'm offering just because it's me and they trust me, to kind of like give it my all, just, kind of contribute. And then you've got the absolute strangers, the people who have got no idea exist, who I appreciate, by the way, who kind of like read my story and you're like, okay, this is somebody that I can back. So yeah, the project has already been live for about like 4 days now, started for like 4 days. And it's been interesting to see that kind of communication between myself and the people who backed me and like, backers and kind of other backers as well. And it's funny because the success of like my success isn't directly tied into their success as an individual, but the success of this kind of experiment is tied into both of our successes, i.e. my personal one and one of the backers. And yeah, hopefully I can learn a lot of lessons from this. Hopefully I can cultivate and build, meaningful community since it is small. And, if things go well, if you really think about it, I have a group of people that will probably back me no matter what I do in the future. And I think that was a realization that I came up or that I kind of like realized after kind of like launching this project. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Yes, no, it's had a powerful impact, and I just want to learn more a bit about the structure. So, when you say a project, because project is such a broad term, for some reason in the NFT space or when someone's launching something, they say, "Oh, this project," but in my eyes or in someone who's not heard about this space will just think, what do you mean? Like, is it project management in a company or like, what does that mean? So I just want to know how you sort of structured it. So is it an NFT? Is it a thing where you just issue tokens? And like you explained with the DAOs, people went to buy tokens, and the more tokens they get, the more share they get, I guess, in voting on decisions in your life or utilities. And I hear this word utilities. So what does that all mean?
So I was contemplating about both of them. Creating NFTs was just, if I want to do something, I want to do it well. And I'm not an artist, so that'd be expensive, and I couldn't be asked. So I just said, let's just go for the easiest route, which is to create a token, kind of like a ERC20 token. It's just like the standard for tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. So I said, yeah, let me issue that, and then however much you kind of like contributed. Directly correlated with how much tokens you have, and the more tokens you have, the more influence you have in voting, voting rights. Or if I'm given airdrop in anything of any financial value, you'll get more of a share of that than somebody else who kind of contributed less. Utility, it's just that word and value is kind of used interchangeably. And I think it just means the same thing. Value and utility, pretty much the same thing, but I think that with utility, some people may talk about more of the actual use cases of the token in itself rather than just the abstract value that it might get. But it is typically used interchangeably.
Okay, and this is a great time because this is the Valuable Podcast. I'm trying to understand how exactly you became valuable because I'm looking at it. You're actually worth, you're not worth this price, but you raised how much? 14?
14.75 Ethereum, which I think is like nearly 50K now today.
And to be honest, what's striking about that, you were raising that whilst the price was crashing. Because so the value went down significantly whilst you're...
I was mad. Oh my days. I couldn't couldn't be any worse. I did it after Christmas. And then when I did it, like I'll just watch like the amount of Ethereum that I'm raising is going up, but then like the value is just going down. Like what the what's going on here? And
you think it's because it was a bit cheaper, some people were getting in.
yeah. But also that could have adverse effects as well because like if people's value of Ethereum is like dropping or crashing, they wouldn't want to now put that somewhere else. So because like when you're in a bull market, people tend to just spend more than when you're in the bear market. So yeah, I was like, oh no, I have not played this right, but yeah, it turned out great.
No, so and you've launched this project 4 days ago. You set up your Discord server. How many is it? Can you share those numbers? How many people sort of you got back in or was in with
Um,
you?
I've got 39 backers, and in Discord, I have I've only got 15 people in there. So it's like as if people don't want to jump in. And because I told everybody that I'm not going to be doing the whole announcements online anymore because I realized I was just spamming like every day was just like 6 or 7 posts of just any little
But it's
token.
interesting. It's I think it's that's how I get to see what you're doing and that's the thing. We live in a world is we're quite nosy. I don't want to really back you, but I want to see what you're doing. So no, that's just the honest truth. I mean, I personally, I think I told you, I thought this was interesting, but I didn't have no idea of what
Yeah.
I was getting into, so I wouldn't go and invest into it. But I think after this even conversation, you've sent me sort of more details to go up and research. And do you think this is going to be a trend then, and people tokenizing themselves, adding more
Oh,
utilities or?
oh. There are literally companies that have been built just so that people can tokenize themselves.
Can you name a few?
You've got Crowdfund, you've got Roll, you've got Rally. You can tokenize yourself on Mirror, like just by entering a couple numbers. Like literally fill out 3 or 4 elements in a form and click done and pay gas fees. Boom, you've got a token. Like is actually pretty damn easy right now. I just think that people just don't know about it, and I think that when big creators start doing it, so when you see that the KSI token,
Mm.
token, and all sorts, and musicians jump in it, and sports people jump in it, and I think that people are going to want to create their own social token, but it's still a primitive space right now, so still a lot of teasing, and hopefully that I can write about my experiences and what I've learned, and perhaps even use it as a blueprint as to what you should and shouldn't do and the things you should and should not consider whilst tokenizing yourself.
Wow, no, that's the way you've built this up, and you've like I'm just trying to follow your story in the sense that started off wanted to be a footballer, I guess,
Yeah.
and was it the classic knee injury? I'm not sure. I didn't even ask that.
But it was a multitude of issues. Multitude of issues. I wouldn't say it was just a knee injury, but yeah, because I was advised to do a B Tech whilst I was playing football, and I chose to stubbornly not do that. So as a result of that, my A level grades were poor, very very poor. So I think that with my waning passion to play competitively as well.
But you still sort of made it out. Went to a great university, done a bachelor's, done a master's,
Yeah.
got funding with a partnership with Arkisites, started up early fans, which you're doing now, tokenized yourself. So in the midst of everything, I'm sure with this funding that you just got, so with this platform, do they like release the funding to you?
Oh yeah. I when I ended the fundraise, I went to my MetaMask. I was like, wow, that's a nice amount of money just to have,
So
in my
it's
payment.
already there, and you can move it around, withdraw it.
I mean, like it's on the blockchain, so I mean, it's on chain, which means like anybody can see it. Like it's not a private wallet. If you type, actually, should I be saying it? To be honest, you guys probably find out anyways. If you type in my ENS name into one of these kind of like a chain scanner, you can see all my transactions, and you can see you can see what I'm holding when I'm holding it, on what chain I'm holding it on.
Wait,
It's
so this is available for the public. So I thought, so is it this transparent? Is the blockchain this
Oh
transparent?
yeah, this is so transparent. Like you can, look, what I do for fun sometimes is like I'll just go on my friend's wallet. I'll be like, oh, why did you buy that NFT? It looks a bit crap. Like you can see it. You can't. You can see it. It's just public. So there's no point in me trying to like pretend like as if you can't.
Of course. And I think what I'll do, I'll also link in places like people can, because I'm not advising anyone to go and invest in anything or lose money, etc. Not at all. But I'll send definitely links for you to get curious about these things, because I think it's so interesting, especially that tokenization element and how easy it's becoming with all of these companies, organizations that are starting companies
Yeah.
literally for us to tokenize ourselves. So I think what I didn't ask is, on one of your utilities or the benefits of holding your token is that the holders get 15% of salaried income.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you don't plan to go into a graduate job with a stable income, where's that income coming from?
I mean, you're just gonna have to pray that that early fans raises some money this year, and I can start to pay myself.
It's really backing, like people who's holding are literally investing in you. So I guess there's actually there's an incentive to help you get
Exactly.
you.
If you don't want to use your money, help me, please.
And I think it's actually a really profound thing because it's like sort of self-fulfilling your success in a way, because people want you to get successful, so they sort of join in. And I think this is something that you mentioned, which is really, really fascinating.
After tokenizing myself, somebody messaged me on Twitter, and they were like, and she was actually American. She's like, man, it's a poor accent, but I'm doing it anyways. Man, I just see you've got 300 followers, and I just wanted to know, how were you able to raise so much money? That was such a bad accent, so I'm going to stop. But basically, what I told her was, this is two things. One thing is community, right? I mean, I met a fellow called Faris. He's a friend of mine, and he was like, Elijah, I think you've got a cult following online. I was like, I don't. I've only got 1,000 followers. But he said it's not about the followers. It's not about the number. It's about how far they are willing to go to support you. Like, that is what matters. And I was like, crap. Okay, that makes sense. And then secondly is the type of people who follow me. So, I've got friends who've got deep pockets, and some people who follow me or have been in the crypto space for years. Some who follow me have got big wallets. If you can find a wallet address, you can literally look it up online. So having followers doesn't really translate into kind of a fit. I don't know what to call it. Just call it for the sake of instance, just call it like a market fit, right? But I've got a friend who's got 5 million followers on TikTok, right? You've also tokenized himself. He probably won't do as well, and it's not because that his followers are broke. It's not about that. But his demographic is 16 to 18-year-old girls. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
You will know nothing about Web3. You will know nothing about tokenization. And even if they did want to back him, the fact that you've got so many steps to do it, you need to download the wallet, and then and you need to buy Ethereum, and you need to send it to that wallet, and all that kind of stuff. And then they'll see gas fees. I'm like, what the hell's a gas fee? And why the hell do I have to pay this? All that kind of stuff added on probably would mean that they're probably not going to want to do it. So I think that having a community that actually supports you and will actually go to certain lengths to back you is super valuable. But then who are the type of individuals in that community? Do they understand what you're doing? Because that is the biggest. That's the biggest thing. If, as you said, you didn't understand what I was doing, so you didn't back me. So imagine if all my followers were like you, despite having hundreds of thousands, I may not be able to raise whatever I raised, right? So I think that's how you should look at it,
Yeah, so it's the quality of your followers, but more so how in touch or how in tune are they with what you're doing.
What you're doing, exactly. Because then if they understand it, they can back it, they know what to expect, right? So yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it if you're building anything,
Wow, I think what I've really taken away from this is actually community, as in community is so important.
Yeah.
So important. And this is just on the whim. Like, what's your take on sort of people influencing? And I guess that's a bad question because it's quite broad. There's different sort of niches, but fashion influencer, should I say? Or
I don't really have a take, because it's something that people want to. I mean, for some people, it's a passion, it's what they want to do, and I'm a big advocate of, if you want to do something, I don't really care what you want to do, but just make sure you do it well. I don't really know. I'm not really fussed as to like what your kind of like standards are, or like where you want to become. If working in a stable job is what you want to do, then just don't be crap at it. That's my kind of thing. But even things like that, community is very, very important. And even if it's just engagement, like the minimum factor, that is still important. There are, if you go on some people's Instagram pages who have both got 20K followers, right? Who are both fashion influencers, let's call them that. One will have 15% engagement when it comes from kind of followers to likes ratio, and one will have 5, right? And then you need to think about, well, why is that the case? Well, maybe one of them actually responds to every single comment underneath a picture, and another one doesn't. Maybe one does Q&As or kind of like ask me anything on Instagram and actually responds to every question, no matter how wild it is, right? And it's just these little things that everybody, when talk about community, everybody wants to kind of like start from the top and be like, yeah, how do I gather all these people in the same room? And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. But what you can do is foster community in the smallest of ways. So what I try to do, I'm not perfect because people are gonna be listening to this and be like, hey man, this guy's lying. He doesn't respond to me. But I try to respond to everybody where I can. And even if I don't, I just give you a little like on your comment. You know, I try to engage with like other people's stories. I try to just to treat people as like my boys. You know, send memes to each other. You know, if you see something funny, send the VM. Just do whatever it's needed to do to create this kind of like raw, meaningful relationship between people and between yourself and these individuals. And I think that's where the value lies. And that way you can build a community of people who will support you to the ends of the earth, despite not having a clue because of what you're doing. And I think that's one thing that's kind of like worked for me is kind of relationship building, and this is the fruit of it. And the more you build relationships, the more your privilege kind of changes as you're going through life. Because the first year version of me couldn't get away with the things, well, not get away, but the first year version of me can't pull strings for certain things the way I can pull strings for certain things now. And that's not because that I've got smarter or that all of a sudden everybody just I'm just super important, but it's because of the relationships that I've built, and people value that, and as a result of that, they're able to do me favors and jump through hoops that other people wouldn't otherwise jump through. So yeah, I say just do that.
Wow, powerful community and relationships. I'm
That's
gonna
it.
note that one down.
That's all the world is today, man. That's all the world is today.
And in terms of what's next, what's the short term goals in terms of 2022? What do you think that you need to really get your head down and get focused in?
My answer is simple. I just want to raise so I could go full time. That's my obsession. Like I want to raise so I could go full time. There's no if buts and maybes about that. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that happens. Believe
How,
you
how
me.
how much do you think you need to raise?
A lot of money with a lot of money. Because I don't know. I mean, we can bootstrap and do all that kind of cute stuff, but I don't have the patience. I just want to go full send. So I'm not going to discuss the figures here because they haven't been finalized. I'm actually kind of still drafting how much needs to be raised,
Of course.
because we want our team to be a certain size, and we want to poach people from kind of certain organizations. So we need to keep that in mind when we're offering, we're giving them like a package or offering. But it's a crap ton of money. Yeah, but I will see to it that it gets raised. Yeah, I'm quite tenacious. So
No, definitely, and I can see that, and I hope things do go well with you. And I'm sure that some of the listeners are sort of inspired by you because, like I said, you're quite unconventional. You're not the typical master's graduate at all.
yeah,
You're very much focused. You're very much driven, and you're very much spontaneous. I'll say there's a little bit of a spontaneous element. Um,
sometimes too much spontaneity. But yeah, it's got me to I've got to today, and I think I can. I think spontaneity in the realm of kind of control is fine.
mm,
If you're too spontaneous, too crazy, it's bad. Like for example, I don't plan my days. That just doesn't exist. I don't have a structure to my days. I just something needs to get done today. It will get done. I don't know when, don't know how, but
wow.
it must.
Yeah.
I will not go to bed until that thing is done. Um, so yeah, if anybody listening here wants to invite me in the future podcast, do not ask me about how I plan my days. Do not ask me about what I get up to on a daily basis because I don't know what I get up to when I wake up in the morning. But I can tell you what I do at the end of each night. But yeah,
Well, no, and it's different. It's different because I've even had people. We've talked about time management and planning, and that's something I need personally. That's something I do because I mean I think is that element of being a student, but the structure. I'm not sure about just waking up and figuring it out. But I feel like you sort of have that mantra, like put first things first, in the
Mm.
sense that whatever needs to be done today, the
Needs to be done.
priority wise, you'll do it right now. And there's a book this book is on time management, but it's basically called Eat That Frog, I think. And it's basically just about whatever is the big thing that needs to be done, that you're avoiding it, just
Mhm.
do it and don't do anything else until that's done.
Yeah.
Then if you have extra time, do X, Y, and Z. So I'm just curious about, do you just work? Is there any hobbies, sports? Do you
Oh,
still
no,
play football?
I've got a lot of hobbies. Music in terms of like playing instruments. I play piano. I do sports, a lot of sports. So I play football. I do MMA as well. So kickboxing and jiu-jitsu.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah. Maybe one day on Instagram I'll just shop like a like sparring footage. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm a massive extrovert. I'm a social butterfly. So being around people, that kind of stuff, that is stuff that those are things that I enjoy. There is more to me than just work, but I guess this is the nature of this podcast means that that's all we've talked about so far.
No, no, at all. I think it's also interesting to know because your value doesn't just derive from work. And I think
Yeah,
that's the point I'm trying to get at as well, is that, and this is why I asked that previous question of like, how did you get here in terms of wanting to work? It could be from your competitive nature in football. Just something you've probably overlooked. It
yeah,
could be sort of these things. And I think these actually translates into like business, translates into making money. And I'm just curious, even on your journey, like, did you have any sort of mentors? Is there any sort of initiatives or mentors, someone that's had
yeah.
an impact on your life?
So I've had a couple mentors. I've actually only had maybe like maybe two or three kind of like mentors, quote unquote mentors. I've had like business mentors, so people like Keith O'Donnell, Christos Sarprunis. I've had personal mentors, people like Michael Mani, Milima Banji. But I think for the personal mentors, the way the relationship has, I think the relationship has changed in the fact that like they're just no longer my mentors. Like I get mentorship by proxy of being their little brother, kind of. And I think that's how I've kind of taken how I interact with people who are younger than me as well. I think that having those type of relationships is way more, and then getting mentorship by proxy of just having a good relationship with them is way more important. If I have to ask them about anything or I need a favor, it doesn't feel a kind of way because I just know that he will do whatever is in his power, or they will do whatever's in their power to kind of help me. And that's because it's not just this kind of like cold send an email kind of stuff. I can.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really big thing because it's sort of something no one really knows, but I sort of battled with a bit mentorship because for me, I've always said I'm a lone wolf. I'm solo, growing up from young. Like that was literally me. And I always, when people say, "Oh, let me be your mentor," there's these sort of initiatives, maybe in sixth form that, yeah, like you said, you get a mentor 1 hour a month,
Yeah,
or you have to go out and try booking time in their calendar. And they say they're
yeah,
busy, they might reschedule. I'm thinking, wait, is this like what's this meant like? And then any success you get, they can claim, oh yeah, I mentored this person. So I
yeah.
always sort of battled with that idea of mentorship. But the way you said, I think you said this is more like doing life together and
Mm.
experiencing that journey, and that's big. And I think you mentioned, so was it MT Mike? And I could see that you actually worked with him a bit. I think on the Common Sense Network. So how did that
Yeah.
sort of relationship foster? What was your role in the Common Sense Network?
I was the website manager. I think like in that first year, then I took a break, and then I came back to write about tech, and then I've taken probably another break, which may be permanent right now because of what I'm doing currently. But the relationship there was fine. Again, it was just more of kind of like a guidance thing. I was challenged some points as well, to do things I haven't kind of like done before. Just kind of allowed me just to kind of like open my eyes and just to see how I can create, kind of solutions to tough questions, to tough problems as well. So that's kind of how I worked with the Common Sense Network in that capacity. But yeah, it looks like, I mean, you can never say never because you don't know what's in the future. But for the time being, I mean, with the amount of content that I'm going to have to write because of my project and for early fans, I'm going to I'm going to eventually perhaps hate writing again. So yeah, so that's probably done right now.
No, absolutely. And no, I think this has been a really good conversation. And I've personally, if anything, learned a lot from you, just about yourself,
Mm.
a bit about this DAOs and the tokenization and things
Yeah.
like that. But before we just close off this podcast episode, do you have anything sort of burning that you would want people to know about this space, or where you'll point them in, if that makes sense? If there's a beginner, and because you mentioned it's a dark hole, and I believe you to some aspect. So where should we start?
I will say, if you if you want a place where you can just like, binge Web3 content, I'll say that Odyssey DAO, spelt the way Odyssey is spelt, and then DAO.com, I think it is. It's like a great place to start because they've got like a whole Web3 introduction to Web3 guide covering NFTs, DAOs, DeFi, and everything you want to learn. And then I will say for your more low res content, you need to if you go for my followers, hopefully Twitter arranges followers by people who you last followed. If you just follow maybe like the last 20 or 30 people that I followed, Twitter does a good job of algorithmically arranging your feed so that what you come across sometimes is Web3 content, and that's how I come across certain cool projects or certain thoughts or things like that, because I'm going to be on Twitter anyway, so I might as well just just consume a couple hundreds of characters, you know, about Web3 content per day.
You mentioned Twitter, and you mentioned Discord. Where do you think is the number one platform, if there is, like, that people really immerse themselves? Is it Discord? Should people
Yeah,
be joining Discord?
It's Discord, but Discord can be quite overwhelming for anybody who hasn't used any kind of productivity tools before, because there's a Discord server for like every project and Discord server for every company. So it's like, if you really want to deep dive in, and there's one point where I had like 20 servers, and all I could hear on my laptop was dun, 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 just like messages coming through the time. So I've been able to, I'm at a point able to kind of like, leave a lot of them. But yeah, Discord it's quite an easy place to get lost in. So I'll say, don't be intimidated by it, but just try to navigate your way through it, firm it, then eventually you can find out what's valuable to you and what's not. Oh, valuable. Find out what's valuable to you and what's not, and then yeah.
Thank you very much. You've been such a valuable guest. Tell me where they can find you, support you, follow you, and also see the success of your project.
The best place is just to go to Eniola, which is my first name, ENIOLA.me, as in that's the website name. And then you can find all my links from the Eniola token and my writings on Mirror all the way down to my Instagram handles and my Twitter handles. So I guess that's like the little hub where you can find anything you to find about me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining.
No worries, Victor, and thank you for having me.
Wasn't that episode so great, filled with so much value? If you enjoyed it as much as I did, make sure to share it with a friend or family and follow us on social media at Valuable Podcast. And don't forget to sign up to the mailing list at www.valuablepodcast.com. Remember, increase the value you provide and you'll rise in due time.